Welcome back to my channel. You are locked in at the right place and at the right time. So in today's video we are going to be talking all things food. I'm going to show you guys what I eat in a day. Food is something that is so important in all of our lives. It's a form of enjoyment and nourishment, and I think it's so important that during this time we really do focus on what we're putting in our body. For the last 3 years or so, I've definitely had a really interesting relationship with food. I went vegan for a solid 2 years, and then when I began the process of opening a salon, the stress got to me and I began eating a lot of comfort food, from ice cream to chocolate, and my skin literally broke out. So since I've been in quarantine, I've made it my mission to not only restore love to my skin, but also to my mind, my body and my soul, and I think food is the best way to do that. And whilst being at home, I found that I love to keep my meals light and healthy. Heavy foods, especially for breakfast and lunch, slow me down, and I end up feeling really sluggish and just wanting to chill and kind of sit on the sofa all day watching movies. But when I eat things that are light and healthy, I have more energy and I feel good on the inside, so I'm able to get a lot more done. So for breakfast, I usually have avocado on toast. I don't put lemons or chili or anything like that. I literally keep it so simple. Or I have oats, or I even have Zimbabwean porridge sometimes, which is so delicious. But you can only eat that if you're literally having the most chill day possible. Otherwise, it makes you very, very sleepy. For today's breakfast, I thought I'd make a berry bowl, and I actually froze some raspberries from a few days prior, as raspberries literally expire the minute they get home. So I figured I'd wash them and put them in the freezer so I could make one in a few days to come. For this, I used a good amount of berries, maybe like 15. Yeah, maybe 15 went in there, I wasn't counting, and I used 1 banana. So usually I'd add a lot less berries if I was making something like a smoothie, but for the berry bowl it's really important that it's nice and thick so that it feels a lot more filling and it goes really well with the toppings you choose to add. I added a little bit of honey and of course some almond milk. You can add any kind of milk, oat milk, coconut milk, almond milk and you just pour that into the blender and you're good to go. I didn't leave it in the blender for too long, but it had a really nice consistency, and if you leave your fruits inside the freezer, then you'll often find that you have a really nice thick consistency to it, whereas if you leave your fruits out in the fridge or outside, then it will be a lot more softer. For my toppings, I chose to add granola, and I added some strawberries and of course my favorite thing, pomegranate. Then to add a little kick of sweetness, I just add a little bit of honey, but of course because I already put honey inside the actual blend, it wasn't important for me, but I just love everything sweet, so I just wanted to add a little bit more. But you can add any fruits to it, whichever fruits are your favorite, from bananas, which would have been nice as well, but again, because there were bananas in the blend, I just thought that I'd kind of keep it simple. And if you're someone who doesn't particularly like cold foods, this might not be for you, but I really enjoy it as it left me feeling so refreshed, and it also reminded me of my travels in Bali where I literally used to eat this all the time. So for lunch, I'm gonna be making pittas, and I absolutely love making these because they're so quick and easy to make and they leave you feeling so good afterwards. So all you're gonna do for this is cut up your toppings. I used a cucumber and tomatoes, and I also use my favorite, avocado. It's really important to make sure that you cut it into fairly small to medium slices, as you don't want it to be too big, as this can be really overwhelming for you when you're biting into it. As a topping, I used hummus, and hummus is really good for you. It's made from chickpeas and it tastes delicious. This one in particular is one of my favorites as it's so yummy. And all you do is you heat up your pitta and you apply the hummus on top. And this hummus also has seeds and even a few chickpeas lying around too, so it's an additional kind of ingredients into your pitta. Then I added my cucumber, my tomatoes, and of course my avo. I was left with a little bit, but we're gonna save that for later, or you can easily just snack on whatever's left and turn it into a mini salad. My favorite part at the end is always taking the pitta and scooping all the remaining hummus. It tastes so good. For dinner, we're going to be making lasagna, and my cousin actually taught me this recipe. She came to my house once and I was so amazed by it, especially the vegan cheese part. But she really did her thing, and I know in due time she's going to be creating content about food, so as soon as she does, I'll be sharing that with you and potentially even doing a really good collaboration. So whenever you're trying to imitate a recipe that isn't vegan, one of the best things you could do is just have a picture in mind of what you're trying to make. At the beginning of being vegan, I found that it was really difficult for me to kind of emulate what I was trying to make because I was forgetting about what it was. So if I was trying to make vegan spaghetti, I would go on a sidetrack and do something else. But keep in mind what the finishing result would look like, and that will keep you going, as especially with the vegan cheese, it can be really easy to get disheartened. But don't worry, because it takes time to learn, but you'll be just fine. And I'm one of those people that if I've watched a YouTube video, I need to watch it like 3 times to really get it, and even sometimes do it with them just so I don't miss a step, as sometimes I can definitely get carried away with pouring too much or adding too little. So yeah, that's the kind of cook I am. It's important to make sure that you thoroughly clean your vegetables. I had mine soaking for a good hour before using them, and they felt really good and clean, and it was so needed, especially during this time. You want to make sure that you're really cleaning everything you're consuming. So once you've cleaned your vegetables, it's now time to prep, and I love to do everything all at once. When I've tried to cook and prep on the go, you end up with something burning or just something ends up not getting enough attention and it's a whole disaster. So take the time to really prep your vegetables, and it's actually really therapeutic. Just have some nice tunes playing, get the vibe going, and trust me, it won't take too long. The first thing I'm going to tackle is the onions, because guys, we all know that these things can make us cry. So I love to cut these in half circles. The reason why, I'm a visual person, I don't really like the look of onions when they've been cut into all kinds of triangles and squares and rectangles. So I just find this is more neater and it looks good. So I love to cut it this way, but you can cut it any way that you like. Once I've done this, I then separate it into a bowl, and the reason why is because if I was to just pour it into a pan, sometimes they can still be stuck together and it's just a whole long process. So I just separate them and I put them aside. Next thing we're gonna add is garlic, and I used 4 cloves of garlic. I love garlic. I love it so much, and just don't judge me, okay? Usually recipes are always like 1 clove of garlic, and I'm like, okay, I'll add 10. Like, it just tastes so good. So I added 4 for this one, but again, you can alter it to your preferences. I didn't add them, but you can add chilies, and the reason why is because there were none in my grocery store, so I just used chili flakes afterwards. But this would now be a great time to cut up some chilies, some red ones or some green ones, and add that to the mix. The vegetables I chose to add to this were courgette, carrots, mushrooms, and a red pepper. But you can add anything. You can even add sweet corn, that tastes good too, but I was just going for what was left in my fridge and what I could work with. I love to cut everything into small to medium shapes, as we want to kind of keep the consistency of what the mincemeat would be like, even though mincemeat is so much smaller. But at least if you kind of keep, especially the mushrooms, to a small to medium size, then you really get the chew, which kind of emulates a meaty texture. Once I was done with my food prep, I then put some vegan butter into the pan. And the reason why I didn't use oil is because finding oil in a supermarket right now is a whole challenge. So this was my next sub, and I poured about a big teaspoon into it and let it melt. And then I added my onions and my garlic, and I just stirred them until they were golden. When making anything with vegetables, it's important to cook the thing that takes the longest first. So I applied the carrot into the pan and I stirred that until it was a little bit soft, to then add the rest of the vegetables. I then added the vegetables one by one and just kept stirring until they were fairly soft, and then I added all of my seasonings. I literally have a whole situation of seasonings, food, guys. Seasonings, when you're vegan, seasonings are so important to everything because they really make or break the meal. So I added my go-to Aromat, I added black pepper, added salt, I added some stock cubes, I added chili flakes, and then I added some thyme. And I let the vegetables marinate with all of this until everything, especially the cubes, had really blended into the vegetables. And then I added some plum tomatoes, and I only added 2 because I wanted the consistency to be fairly thick to emulate the kind of sauce that you'd usually have if you're making it with meat. Once this was done, it was now time to move on to our vegan cheese. So for the vegan cheese, you're going to need flour, your milk sub, some vegan butter, and some garlic powder, and even some salt if you want to. As for measurements, guys, whenever I've been cooking, especially around the people who have taught me to cook, I'll be there with watching and I'm like, how much should I put of this? And they're like, you just know. I just know by looking at it. So please don't blame me for my inability to be able to explain the measurements, as I have now copied their way of cooking and I just know and I just go with the flow of everything. But I tried to really think about how much you would add for this, as the vegan cheese is really, really important. So you'll need around half a cup of almond milk or oat milk, whichever one you're using, but I love to use almond milk for everything. And I poured that into the pot. Then I added around a 1/4 cup of flour. I added some garlic powder and some salt and some vegan butter, and I just mixed it. You'll notice that whilst you're mixing, there are so many lumps. You can either just continue to mix until they go, or like me, you can just kind of spread them to the side of the pot and just squeeze them out, and then you'll notice that they'll all be gone. But don't be alarmed, this doesn't mean it's going to curdle or it's lumpy or anything like that. It's just fine, trust me. You have to be really consistent with this. You can't be on your phone, you can't be distracted. You just need to keep mixing until it becomes fairly thick like cheese. And once you find that it's starting to thicken at the bottom with the heat of the pot, you just turn it down. I had my settings on a 6, which is maybe medium temperature, but I then decreased it to 4 and I just carried on mixing. And then once it was ready, you'll know because it will emulate a kind of white sauce or a cheese sauce where it will be gooey, and when you lift it with a spoon it falls right down. If it thickens too much, just add some more milk and keep mixing, or if it's too thin, then just add a little bit more flour. You just kind of have to play it by ear and just see what works for you. The reason why I added garlic salt is just because I wanted to add a little bit of flavor, as the taste of almond milk and flour just just does not sound good to me in my head, so I just wanted to season it just so it blended really nicely with the rest of the vegetables. And now for my favorite part, I just put my sauce. You can choose to pour the sauce on and just leave it like that, or of course you can spread it out depending on your preferences of how you want it to sit. I did a combo for both and there wasn't much difference as the cheese sauce literally spreads out anyway, so you don't need to worry about that. Then I put the lasagna sheets, and I had to break a few to kind of fit the molds, and a few of them turned out so perfect, and then one of them was just catastrophic, and I was just so ashamed of myself for the art creation that did not come to light. And you just repeat until you end up with an empty pan of vegetables and your lasagna tray is full. I put it in the oven for around 40 minutes and I just kept checking on it to make sure that it wasn't burning at the top. The cheese sauce at the top will not look like cheese, guys. I just need you to know this. Like, honestly, every time I've cooked it, I look at it and I'm like, this is very questionable. Like, this does not look like cheese, but it tastes so good, trust me. Like, so good, and it was delicious. I always love making my vegan lasagna and it lasts me a good amount of time. Well, the extra 3 days to be able to have it for lunch or dinner. It's really nice. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching my what I eat in a day, and if you want to see any more cooking videos, as I've really been able to master some nice vegan situations whilst I've been at home, then just let me know. But give my video a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, please do, and I look forward to seeing you for the next video and in the comments. Bye guys.